Every evening in Lagos, when the city's noise begins to fade, Amara finds peace in her small kitchen. The air fills with the smell of spices, sizzling oil, and freshly chopped vegetables. She loves to take old family recipes and give them a little twist, adding pineapple to jollof rice, mixing coconut milk into egusi soup, or pairing peppered chicken with sweet mango salsa. She imagines one day serving these dishes in her own restaurant, a place where people would come not just to eat, but to feel joy. But in her home, dreams like that are treated like a joke. Whenever she talks about her restaurant idea, her parents roll their eyes. Her cousins laugh and call it women's play, like cooking is only a pastime, not a real job. Her older brother, Chaik, says, "You better find a serious career before you embarrass yourself." Their words sting more than she admits. Still, every night she continues. She saves small amounts from her catering side jobs to buy better ingredients. She experiments late into the night, writing down recipes in a worn notebook, imagining menus and restaurant names. In her mind, she can already see the sign above the door, "Flavors of Amara." Cooking for her is more than food. It's art, it's therapy, it's the one place where she feels powerful. Even if no one else believes in her dream right now, she believes enough for all of them. One day, she tells herself, they'll taste what she's talking about. Family gatherings used to be something Amara looked forward to. The noise, the laughter, the smell of food in the air. But lately they had turned into something else. Now, every time she walked into the living room carrying a tray of snacks or a new dish she'd been testing, the jokes would start. "Ah, here comes Chef Amara with her tiny pots," one cousin would say, and the whole room would burst into laughter. Another would add, "Better serve your imaginary customers before the food gets cold." The words might have sounded like harmless teasing to everyone else, but to her, they were sharp knives. She'd smile politely, pretending it didn't matter, but inside it hurt. Chaik, her older brother, never missed a chance to lecture her. "Amara, you're wasting your time," he would say in front of everyone. "You're not in America where chefs become celebrities. Here in Nigeria you need a real job. Something serious." His tone was firm, almost like he was trying to save her from herself. But the more he said it, the smaller she felt. It wasn't just at home. Even some friends began to make little comments. "So when will you open your restaurant? In the year 2050? They laughed, not realizing each joke chipped away at her confidence bit by bit. But what they didn't see was that the teasing didn't make her quit. It made her more determined. She'd go home after these gatherings, sit quietly in her kitchen, and start cooking something new, almost like she was answering them without saying a word. She imagined a day when those same cousins would walk into her restaurant, dressed nicely, waiting for a table, and she would serve them with a smile. For now, though, she kept the pain tucked deep inside. Every insult became fuel. Every laugh became a reason to push harder. If they thought she was playing, she was ready to turn their laughter into applause. It was a hot Friday afternoon when Amara balanced 2 food trays in her hands, carefully making her way into a tall office building in Victoria Island. She had been hired to deliver lunch to a small group of workers. Nothing fancy, just her smoked jollof rice with peppered chicken and plantains. By the time she reached the 5th floor, the smell of the food was already turning heads. People she didn't even know peeked over cubicle walls, sniffing the air like they were following a trail. She set the trays on a long conference table, arranging the plates the way she always did. Neat, colorful, and inviting. One man in a crisp blue shirt walked over, curious. "Who cooked this?" he asked, looking at the food like it was art. "That would be me," Amara said, smiling shyly. He picked up a fork, took one bite and froze. Then his eyes widened. "You made this. This is incredible." She laughed nervously. "Thank you, sir. I just do small catering jobs." He looked at her for a moment, then reached into his pocket for a business card. "I'm a producer for Nigeria's Next Top Chef. We're looking for new talent. You should audition." First she thought he was joking. She even glanced around to see if there was a camera hidden somewhere. "Me? On TV? Why not?" he said. "You've got the flavor and the presentation. I can see you winning." Her heart started racing. This was the kind of chance she'd secretly prayed for, but she'd never imagined it would come like this. in the middle of a lunch delivery. She took the card with trembling fingers, staring at the bold letters like they might disappear if she blinked too long. On the bus ride home, she held that card tight, as if it were a golden ticket. Outside, Lagos traffic honked and roared, but inside her mind, all she could hear was the producer's voice. "I can see you winning." For the first time, her dream didn't feel so far away. It felt like it was knocking on her door, and she was ready to open it. Amara didn't tell a single soul about the audition. Not her parents, not Chaik, not even her closest friend. She knew the moment the news got out, the teasing would start again, and this time it could shake her confidence before she even stepped into the competition kitchen. So she decided this was her secret. Every night, when the house was quiet and everyone had gone to bed, she would tiptoe into the kitchen. She kept the lights low, almost like she was hiding from the world, and began experimenting. Some nights it was spicy seafood okra with coconut cream, other nights it was grilled suya chicken with tamarind sauce. She pushed herself to mix flavors she'd never tried before. If something failed, she quietly scraped it into the bin and started again. Her family had already refused to help. When she once mentioned she needed better cooking tools, her mother had said, "Why waste money on something that will not feed you in the future?" So Amara turned to her friends. One lent her a proper chef's knife. Another gave her a portable gas burner. Someone even smuggled her a set of stainless steel pans from an aunt's shop. Each borrowed item felt like a silent vote of confidence. She kept a small notebook open on the counter, jotting down recipes, measurements, and timing. The pages quickly filled with smudges of oil and splashes of sauce, proof of her late-night battles. Sometimes she'd look at the clock and realize it was almost 3 a.m., and she had to be up by 6 for her next catering job. But she didn't care. In those quiet hours, it was just her, the smell of simmering spices, and the dream she refused to let go of. She imagined the judges taking their first bite and looking at her the way that producer had in the office. Surprised, impressed, maybe even a little in love with the food. She was exhausted, yes, but also alive in a way she'd never felt before. This was her moment in the making, and no one, not even her family's doubts, was going to stop her from being ready. The morning of the audition, Amara could barely eat. Her stomach felt like it was full of fluttering birds, and every breath felt a little too quick. She had barely slept, going over her recipe in her head again and again. Smoked jollof rice with pineapple glaze, peppered chicken on the side, and grilled plantains to complete the plate. It was the dish that had made the TV producer stop in his tracks that day in the office, and she hoped it would do the same for the judges. She arrived at the studio carrying her ingredients like they were treasure. The room buzzed with nervous energy, other hopeful chefs chopping vegetables, whisking sauces, and whispering last-minute pep talks to themselves. The bright lights overhead made everything feel bigger, scarier. A producer handed her a number tag and said, "You're up in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Her heart raced faster. When her turn came, she stepped into the audition kitchen, trying to hide her trembling hands. The judges sat at a long table, watching her with serious eyes. "Tell us your name and what you're making," one of them said. "My name is Amara, and today I'm making smoked jollof rice with pineapple glaze." She tried to sound confident, but her voice almost cracked. As she cooked, the smell of tomatoes, peppers, and smoked paprika filled the air. The sizzling chicken skin popped in the pan, and the sweet scent of caramelizing pineapple drifted toward the judges. She plated the rice carefully, letting the golden glaze drip gently over the top, placing the chicken and plantains just so. She stepped back, took a deep breath, and carried the plate forward. The first judge took a bite, chewed slowly, then looked up at her with raised eyebrows. "This is unique," he said, glancing at the others. The second judge smiled after her first taste. "The smokiness, the sweetness, the spice. It's dancing in my mouth." The third judge simply put down her fork and said, "I want more." Amara felt her chest tighten, not from fear now, but from relief. All the late nights, all the whispered jokes behind her back, all the moments she'd wanted to give up, they had led here. After a brief discussion, one of the judges looked at her and said, "Amara, welcome to Nigeria's next top chef." The words rang in her ears. She smiled, trying to hold back tears. This wasn't just an audition. This was the doorway to everything she had dreamed of. As she walked out of the room, clutching her apron for the show, she knew her life had just changed, and not even her family's doubts could take this victory from her. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon at home when the shouting started outside. Amara's mother was in the living room peeling oranges, and her father was dozing in his chair. Suddenly, the front gate banged and voices filled the air. "Come out! Come out! Your daughter is on TV," one neighbor yelled. Another added, "She's trending. Amara is trending." Her mother frowned, confused. Trending? For what? She wiped her hands and went to the door, only to find half the street standing outside, waving phones in the air. On every screen was the same thing: Amara, in a crisp white apron, smiling at the judges on Nigeria's Next Top Chef. Within minutes, the house turned into a viewing party. Relatives who lived nearby rushed over. Even Chaik came, looking shocked, holding his phone like it was proof of something unbelievable. "Wait, that's our Amara?" he asked, as if she had an identical twin somewhere. Her cousins, the same ones who used to joke about her tiny pots and imaginary customers, sat on the couch, eyes wide. They didn't laugh this time. They didn't even blink. They just stared at the TV as the judges praised her smoked jollof rice with pineapple glaze. Her mother sat down slowly, pressing a hand to her chest. "She didn't tell us," she whispered. Her father shook his head, a smile tugging at his lips despite himself. Outside, more neighbors called through the window. "Your daughter is making us proud. She's going to win. We knew she had talent." Which of course was not true, but no one was going to admit that now. Amara wasn't home to see any of this. She was still in the competition house, cooking and competing. But in that living room everything had changed. The same family that once mocked her now sat glued to the screen, waiting for every close-up, every smile, every judge's comment. For the first time they weren't laughing at her dream, they were watching it come alive. The studio lights were brighter than ever. The cameras moved around like curious eyes, catching every flick of the knife, every stir of the spoon. This was it, the grand finale of Nigeria's Next Top Chef. Amara stood at her cooking station, hands resting on the counter, heart pounding so hard she could almost hear it over the noise. Today, she had to create a 3-course meal for celebrity guests. And not just any celebrities. The governor's wife herself would be sitting at that table. As the host shouted, "Begin," Amara took a deep breath and went to work. For her starter, she chose pepper soup with fresh catfish, infused with lemongrass and ginger. She wanted it warm and comforting, the kind of dish that felt like home. For the main course, she planned her signature smoked jollof rice, but this time paired with grilled prawns brushed in chili lime butter. And for dessert, a bold move, puff puff filled with zobo-flavored cream, dusted with cinnamon sugar. Every sound around her faded as she worked. She remembered every insult: tiny pots, imaginary customers, get a real job. She remembered the late nights alone in her kitchen, her hands sore from chopping, her eyes heavy from lack of sleep. Each memory fueled her, pushing her to season with precision, plate with care, and cook with the kind of love no one could laugh at. Across the room, the other finalists moved quickly, but Amara stayed calm. She tasted everything twice, adjusted flavors, and kept her station neat. When the puff puff came out golden and perfect, she felt a spark of hope. When she lifted the lid on the jollof rice and the rich smoky aroma hit her, she knew she was ready. The servers carried her plates to the long table where the guests sat. She tried not to watch, but she couldn't help it. The governor's wife took a sip of the pepper soup, closed her eyes and smiled. The judges exchanged glances. One celebrity guest let out a soft at the first bite of the jollof and prawns. When dessert arrived, there was laughter, the good kind, as the puff puff burst open with the sweet surprise of zobo cream. When it was over, Amara stood in front of the judges, heart in her throat. They praised her balance of flavors, her creativity, her confidence. "You've cooked with your heart," one said, "and it shows." She smiled, holding back tears. This wasn't just about food. It was about proving every doubt wrong, every sneer irrelevant. No matter what happened next, she knew she had left her soul on those plates, and it was worth every second. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the stage lights. The three finalists stood side by side, hands clasped in front of them, waiting for the host to speak. Amara could feel the sweat on her palms, the pounding in her chest. The judges had tasted their food, given their comments, but no one knew who had won. The host smiled at the crowd, drawing out the moment. And the winner of Nigeria's Next Top Chef is. The pause felt endless. Cameras zoomed in. The audience leaned forward. Amara! Her name exploded through the speakers, followed by cheers, clapping and flashing lights. For a second she just stood there, frozen, her brain refusing to process the words. Then it hit her, she had won. She had actually won. Her knees felt weak, but her smile spread wide. The judges came forward to shake her hand, and one of them placed a huge golden trophy in her arms. Then the host announced the prize, 10 million Nigerian nairas and a full sponsorship to open her own restaurant. The crowd roared again, but this time Amara's mind wasn't on the stage. It was on her family, watching from home. In a living room in Lagos, her parents sat surrounded by relatives and neighbors. Her mother's eyes brimmed with tears. Her father's hands trembled slightly as he clapped. Chaik, her brother, looked stunned, like he was seeing her for the first time. The same people who once laughed at her dream were now shouting, "That's our Amara!" and wiping their faces with the corners of their clothes. Back on stage, confetti rained down as Amara gave her thank you speech. Her voice shook, but she spoke from the heart. She talked about starting small, about cooking in the middle of the night, about being told her dream wasn't realistic. To anyone who has been told they can't, she said, cook your dream anyway. When the cameras turned off and the lights dimmed, she stood backstage holding the trophy close. It wasn't just a symbol of winning a competition, it was proof that she had been right to believe in herself when no one else did. Somewhere deep inside, she could almost hear the echoes of every insult she'd ever received, but now they were drowned out by applause. She didn't cry, not because she wasn't moved, but because her heart was too full. The tears were left for her family, the ones who had once laughed but now cried with pride. A week after the finale, Amara was invited for a special interview on national TV. She expected to sit alone with the host, talking about her win and her future plans. But when she arrived at the studio, she got a surprise. Her parents and Chaik were already there, sitting under the bright lights. The cameras started rolling and the host smiled. Today we have not only our champion Amara, but also her family, and they have something to say. Her father cleared his throat first. Amara, he began slowly, we were wrong. We didn't believe in your dream, and we said things we shouldn't have said. But you proved us wrong, and we are proud of you. His voice wavered a little, but the words were steady. Her mother leaned forward, taking Amara's hand. I'm sorry for calling it women's play. I see now that cooking is your gift, and you've used it to change your life, and ours too. Tears glistened in her eyes, and for the first time, Amara felt no bitterness, only warmth. Then it was Chaik's turn. He scratched the back of his neck, avoiding her eyes at first. Well, you know me, I like to talk too much. I told you to get a real job. But, turns out you already had one. You're the pride of the family now. He said it awkwardly, almost like it hurt to admit, but there was a small smile on his face. The audience clapped, and Amara couldn't help but laugh softly. In that moment, it didn't matter how long it had taken for them to believe in her. What mattered was that they finally did. The host ended the segment by showing clips of her winning moment, her dishes, and her journey through the competition. Her family sat beside her, beaming like they had been cheering for her all along. As the cameras switched off, her father hugged her for the first time in years. "We love you, Amara," he said quietly. And this time she knew he meant it. Months later, the big day finally came. The doors of Flavors of Amara swung open in the heart of Lagos, and the smell of her cooking spilled out into the street, drawing curious crowds. The restaurant was bright and warm, with colorful walls, wooden tables, and soft music playing in the background. On the wall near the entrance hung a framed photo of her holding the Nigeria's Next Top Chef trophy, a reminder of how far she had come. At the VIP table sat her family, dressed in their best clothes. Her parents looked around proudly, pointing out the details. The menu designs, the fresh flowers on each table, the polished cutlery. Chaik sat there too, sipping juice and pretending not to be impressed, though he couldn't hide his smile. They weren't laughing at her anymore. Not the way they used to. The only laughter now came when they shared memories of her early days. Burning her first batch of puff puff, mixing sugar instead of salt, cooking for imaginary customers. But now the jokes felt light, loving, and full of pride. Guests began filling the room, and soon, plates of her signature smoked jollof rice, chili lime prawns, and zobo cream puff puff were leaving the kitchen in a steady stream. Everywhere she looked, people were smiling, eating, enjoying. From across the room, Amara caught her mother's eyes. Her mother mouthed the words, "We're proud of you." And in that moment, Amara felt something deep in her chest. Not just happiness but peace. Her dream had finally come true, and this time everyone at the table believed in it as much as she did.